welcome to the second GA Roadmap season opener, GA season opener session on the GA Roadmap. I can't believe I messed that up from the beginning. Great that we could have so many people join us again for this second session. We've got a whole program, hopefully, as you remember, between now and Aero at Friedrichshafen at the end of April. We're going to take a week's break next week, and then we're going to get into the other sessions, subjects like international flying, instructors, and all sorts of other topics. And they'll shortly all be posted on the EASA website so that you can register, and we'll email you all with the links to the video recordings of this, the PPTs, the PowerPoints that we'll be using, and also where you can register for all of the other sessions that we're going to have in this GA season opener series. So we're going to start. I'm going to introduce my colleagues here from the EASA GA Roadmap team, who are going to, hopefully we'll have a good discussion this afternoon. So I'll start by introducing Raphael. Raph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Raphael Berthier, project assistant. I joined the GA team at EASA beginning of January, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all today.
Excellent. Alain.
So good afternoon, everyone. So Alain Leroy, Chief Engineer in the agency Leading Innovation, but also, and most important for today, the new GA champion, having taken over from Dominique Roland end of the summer last year, and really looking forward to work with all of you on the good achievements.
And Vlado.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. Vladimir Foltin. I'm GA Roadmap Project Manager in EASA and General Aviation Project Certification Manager and ATM expert here. And looking forward to interact with you today.
We're going to start by giving you an update on where we are with the EASA GA Roadmap. So there's lots of interesting things to talk about. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen so you can see it all. Here we go. Good. So obviously we've had a changeover over the last year or so. Dominique Roland and Boudewijn van Dois both retired from EASA. We had Alain and Vlado come and take over and fill in their shoes. And maybe, Vlado, you can talk a little bit about where we are with GA Roadmap 2.0 before we start looking at where all of this is going next.
Yeah, thank you, John. Having been looking at the title of this session, I'm wondering if we shouldn't have a say farewell to GA Roadmap, just to tease the audience a little bit what may come later. Anyway, no worries. GA remains high priority for EASA. So what you see on the screen is these are the commitments or our priorities for the GA General Aviation over the last few years. They were stable, they were reflecting the reality at the time. But what we think, we need to rebrand the things, we need to reflect on the circumstances around, on the environment around, and we need to probably complement the existing good actions with the new ones. And that will be what we will be talking later. But talking about the priorities, we have delivered a lot of things, and it's not, when I'm talking we, that's not only EASA team, but also together with the stakeholders. We have delivered a lot of interesting improvements. Net safety benefit is becoming more and more common, not only in certification, but also in oversight. And we are trying to introduce understanding out there that sometimes we may be more relaxed with the airworthiness or tough requirements, while understanding that the using of novelties and new equipment may bring safety improvements, of course, when that is demonstrated. We know that there was a need to adapt design and production rules. We have done a lot of things. Part 21 Lite is in the pipeline. We spent a lot of effort on digitalization of the GA, and there is a hell lot to be done in the future. We will be talking about it later on. And but the most prominent vehicle in GA is the culture of safety, safe behaviors of pilots. We know that we are dealing with individuals. EASA recognized that we cannot approach individual pilots using the same methods as very well-established aviation organizations. Therefore, we have to have this kind of specific approach this event is one of the examples of this approach. Yeah, so that's what about GA Roadmap 2.0. A lot of things have been delivered. I think on the next slide, if we can have that one, there should be some of the achievements. Just to name a few, I'll start with right upper corner. Those two rule books have been nearly completely delivered by our stakeholders. And that's where our appreciation is. They have been saving us resources, working with us closely, but developing these two rule books for their communities, and which are now published on our website. And I invite every balloon and glider pilot to look at the consolidated set of rules. You will find everything about airworthiness, ops, flight crew licensing, and other things within one PDF file. We've been delivering on Part M Lite. Hopefully, this is becoming business as usual these days. It relieved all of us, owners and operators of the aircraft, of unnecessary administration around maintenance, and hopefully more hands-on experience and real work on aircraft and their improvement and maintenance.
And maybe it's worth saying, certainly in safety promotion, this coming year, we're going to do a lot more just to help people understand a bit more about what they can do, because I think there's still a lot of learning to do generally in the community on that side.
Indeed, that's how it is. And when the new things come up, we still see that people are still stuck with their own routine and practice, and passing the message out is a key. And thanks for John, to you and your team, we are trying to make it happen. So,
and I'm sure we'll get quite a few questions on the standards at Aero as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I can imagine. Oh, there is the basic IR. I think big achievement. 7 years of work, changing of regulation, a lot of effort. We are there. It's out there, and we have learned recently. Was it like a month ago? We learned.
A month ago, yeah.
Yeah, we've learned a month ago that there was a new, probably the first student out of basic instrument rating training. Very happy. The school was very happy about the competence of the guy, and also the person was very enthusiastic about the training. More to come.
It's probably worth mentioning we've got a little task force under the GA ComTeb and the GA.
Alan can mention little details on that one.
Well, that's very important. What you see here is the achievements, but now we have to make sure that it will go in practice. And that was very good to learn that this ATU and these students were able to go through, but we need to build, to capitalize on their success. So what we have done with the stakeholders, with the GA Com and TEB, so with organization being in contact with the field, is create a small task force to standardize, let's say, the approach among member states, to ensure that we can offer the same kind of approach to all. So we will achieve at least 2 or even 3 goals together: standardized approach, so a standardized safety level, because we are civil transit, so we have to think about safety, but most important, a fair and a level playing field for all, the training organization and the pilots. So that's really good in today's a bit of economical difficult times, to have this new flexibility and to ensure that we are all, you and us, satisfied by what is going on in the field. So big achievement from the roadmap, and now our challenge for the future altogether is to make sure that this achievement will be translated into concrete action across various member states.
Yeah, let's to remind ourselves why we do this. We truly believe that IFR rated pilots are safer pilots because they understand the risks of weather much better and collision with terrain. So there is a lot to be done, and we will be continuing on this topic in the future. Moving to the lower line, DTO, maybe some of you do not know, it's a declared training organization. So that's a light training for basically the organizations declare the capability, and then they of their goal. There is no need for rigid certification process. This is something the aero clubs were doing for years. There was a good safety record, a good safety organization behind, and we wanted to reflect on those positive experiences and trying to have this soft touch from bottom.
This is very important, because the notion of a declared organization is an idea, a concept which is across the board. That's quite strong. It's a bit like the basic AR. In fact, for historical traditional activity, we check that an organization has the capability, the competence, the staffing, the procedure, etc. It is quite heavy, time demanding, and of course expensive. Here, and then we give some approval with some privileges, and the organization can do X, Y, Z. Now with the DTO, or let's say with a declared organization, it is the opposite. The organization declares upfront, I am not competent, I am capable in this domain. And a priori, we trust the organization in a different framework, of course. And then after we do some standardization visit. And that's really the luxury of this. We do not put extreme delay, cost, and demands on the organization at the beginning. They say, I know what I'm doing. We assume, based on what we get, that it is the case. They start working, and then we do, of course, some oversight to ensure that what they declared is exactly what they're doing. But at least it allows people to start more smoothly in a better cost-efficient, but also safety cost-efficient environment. So quite important as a context for the big business.
And I think it's that general principle that's really been at the heart of the GA roadmap. Just generally is this whole making things as simple as possible and encouraging the growth of general aviation and all of these foundation points. And it's interesting when you start seeing what that actually looks like in different parts of the system.
We have learned a lot along the journey, and we are still learning. And we are also inspired what's happening in the drones because they have similar challenges there in terms of organization, non-aviation people and so on. But when I'm looking at the slide and seeing the declared only to the DTO, I think the declared logo should have been also over the other picture of Part 21.
Yeah, I wondered if it's that high.
We need to move it. We need to move it clearly there because
Part on the two.
Yeah.
Part 21 is clearly, which is introducing declared design against the specified standard, and basically this will not require any upfront certification. There is very light approach to there, and it's for traditional light aircraft. Risks are properly or scope is properly designed around the risks, and we believe that this will take off slowly but gradually in light end of aviation or traditional aviation. Moving forward. You see ADSL, it looks like ADSB, but it's not. It's something similar. Well, there will be a specific session. I will just do a teaser here. We will be discussing in the context of IconSecurity at a separate session. And I invite you, if you want to learn more about ADSL developments, use space, drones integration into the uncontrolled airspace, please join the session in about a few weeks' time where we will be discussing.
We'll include the registration for that as well in the when we send the email with all.
Absolutely. So that's just a little teaser. And last but not least, again, abbreviations there: AWO, all-weather operations, or EGNOS. This is the system we are using for augmenting the GNSS signal in Europe for aviation. Basically, we have been busy with EU SPA agency in Prague. This is EU agency for space program. Who were helping us, and we were jointly developing more guidelines and for implementation and risk assessment of instrument approaches to non-instrument runways at GA aerodromes, typically without any air traffic control or AFIS being provided at that airport. And I have pleasure to announce another milestone. Not only the material is published, but we have a first ever aerodrome in Europe, to my knowledge, where we have introduced these procedures in January. Procedures for Lahti aerodrome were published, which are fully LPV procedures, no ATC, no AFIS there. So congratulations to our Finnish colleagues at the Traficom agency, which is our equivalent in Finland, as well as the Lahti aerodrome and the stakeholders there for this great achievement. I hope there are some of them listening and can listen to this credit. So that's about the GA Roadmap 2.0 achievement. Many more details to be reported, but we have limited time, so we need to move forward.
Sounds like a plan. So we'll move on to the next bit. Shall I talk about the?
I think this is yours. Who else can?
Excellent. Yeah, so hopefully you started to see all of these things we've been building over the last 2 or 3 years. There's some pictures from last year's season opener that we did, and we're going to have a continued program, not just every week from the week after next to Aero, but then with monthly sessions and covering all sorts of other interesting topics. We continue to do Sunny Swift. In fact, we've got the next one coming out almost any day now on Trim Runaway, which will be an interesting one. We've got lots of promotion coming up this year on parachuting and skydiving in terms of the flying of aircraft for parachuting, not parachuting itself. And then, yeah, you'll see all sorts of other interesting things coming. We've got lots of stuff on preparing your aircraft coming. Just reminding you of the stuff from previous years about getting ready for the season. Thomas, that you see in the picture on the top right from the Norwegian CEA, will be running a couple of the sessions with Vendel, who's then in the bottom right, who's in our safety promotion team, who's a pilot and instructor as well. So yeah, lots of exciting things going on, and we're really getting into launching this concept of the Aviators Club and kind of really get everybody questioning kind of themselves a little bit about, you know, what kind of pilot are you? You know, how do you prepare? Well, how do you make better decisions? How do you learn? If any of you who didn't join our session last week, or the self-help group, as somebody thought it was at one point, where we were talking with Jani Hotela from Traficom Finland and with Kate Brunkar from Gamma, and we also had Vendel as well, and we had a really interesting discussion last week. So yeah, you can watch that back on the Together for Safety YouTube channel. So we'll share the link with that as well. So lots of exciting things going on. We also posted stuff in the GA community site. We've got over just over 12,000 members now. We're certainly approaching. So that keeps coming through. So
press the button.
Helping that. Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, I forgot about the animation.
Yes.
So yeah, we welcome anybody who's not already a member of the GA community site to join, and we've got a revamp coming up of that to clean a few things up and put lots of new content on that in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, make sure to follow that as well. So this is probably the interesting bit. I feel like I need a drum roll or something.
Yeah. Now you disclose the novelties.
I know. What's happening next?
That's a good
What
question.
can you share? Do I press the button yet?
It's a hot news. This is.
There we go.
Alors, just a forward. This today is we are sharing with you our views. So this is nothing graved into stone. Well, we have some ideas, we have some internal brainstorming, we spoke with the commission. So what you will see here is things we have in mind where we think we have to put our efforts. However, of course, your feedback will be more than welcome. And we want to have, for just before Friedrichshafen, to have a GA Task Force official meeting in which we will validate our vision on what we have called the GA Flight Path 2030 plus. So why Flight Path 2030 plus? Because with the roadmap, as Vlado and John were saying, a lot has been done, a lot has been developed, translated into concrete action. Now we have to see how to keep the ball rolling and how to put all that into action, and also to care and to tackle the new challenges and opportunities. So this is just a first idea, what we have in mind, how we want to work with you, and of course, your feedback will be more than welcome. So this sentence is typically, we are a safety agency, we have to have a vision. So we developed this kind of sentence. Well, it looks a bit pedantic, if I may say, sorry for my French English. I
don't take offense,
we never know. So to enhance safety culture, to enable a sustainable growth and embrace a digital future so that we can maximize the benefit of technology and, of course, encourage a wider diversity and accessibility. Here, you have all of the keywords: safety culture, sustainable, growth, because if we don't grow, we shrink, so it's not good. The digital future is coming full speed to us, so we have to make sure we can tackle it. And of course, technology, diversity, accessibility is a given. So that's what we have as a motto, as a vision. And in the next slides, we will explain you why.
And maybe we need
I know one thing. Alan, as a chief technology guy in the house, he's particularly happy about the new technology being implemented in there. And I share this view. I share this view fully.
Although the one thing we didn't really mention is the moving from GA roadmap to flight path 2030 plus.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time thinking about
we got a lot on the road, we need to fly now.
Exactly. We're finally going for takeoff. You know, we had various cups of coffee yesterday afternoon and came up with the name, so it's all good.
All this in short to prepare GA for the future.
Indeed.
I mean,
And
this
that's
is
the
so that
serious
we could survive this beautiful leisure activity survives in the future.
So maybe now's a good time to talk a bit about why then we take these steps and where we go next, and you know what's the basis for all of this.
Yeah, I think we need to base our vision on certain whys, and what we have on the slide is among those. There are continuous safety challenges we have. Here I would like to draw attention of our audience to two important documents. They are formal documents of the agency. We are attached to those documents, and one of them is annual safety review, where we have a few topics, specific topics for general aviation or related to general aviation. We have safety risk portfolios for sailplanes, safety risk portfolio for balloons. Of course, we have a small aeroplane safety risk portfolio there as well. So that's our baseline. This analysis gives us a driving force into the improvements. We think there is place to improve, there is space to improve safety. And another one is annual safety recommendations review. Basically, this is a list of recommendations agency receives from various investigation authorities based on really bad things that happened. And we have to learn from those. There is a good repository of recommendations. We are transparent agency, so we publish them and we review them regularly. We pay attention to safety. It's in our scope, but it's not only safety.
And there's two things I always like to bring in.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, just in case anybody's wondering, next year it will be the turn to have a light aircraft on the cover. We alternate the aircraft. I particularly find it amusing that we're here in the GA roadmap. We have a helicopter and a large aeroplane. It just happened that was their turn on those different covers. We do alternate and we will change them around. So please feel free not to tell us about. We do understand that bit, and we continue to change. But actually, particularly on the safety recommendations review, you know, we have lots of things, particularly even on safety promotion. For example, there's quite a few recommendations at the moment on torso restraints. That we'll be covering over the next few months, particularly with upper body restraints rather than just lap belts, and you know, trying to help people make that process easier. So yeah, there are lots of good examples of both the strategic stuff that comes out of the safety review in terms of types of accidents, and then really specific in-depth topics in the recommendations review that kind of starts that going.
I invite every aviator to have a look at the risk portfolio. It's like 2-3 pages of reading. It's a graphically demonstrated, and just match those risks with your own experience. And tell us later in the future if it is reflects your own experience. Of course, we have different experiences.
And what we try to do with data for safety in our domain of today is really to derive precursors on events, on any unpleasant situation. So the big data, the big data lake, how to extract from this big data lake common trends, common issues, the precursors really. And from this we identify safety trends, performance trends, etc. Example, we had recently a study made pre-COVID, post-COVID on unstabilized approach. Sorry, large transport, but it gives you an idea. And we saw, without any incident, without any in-service problem, we saw that there was the start of a deviation in behavior. Nothing wrong. It was still all good. It was still all fine. It was according to procedures, but we saw that deviation from the standard procedures and from the stabilized approach requirements were after COVID a bit more. So it was good for all of us, training organization and local authorities, airlines, and so forth, to reflect and to see where to put emphasis on recurrent training or on putting a bit more of safety promotion. So this is a kind of thing which looks very high level, but in fact, which may help us all together to maintain or even to improve the safety. And in GA, based on data we have, of course, the lake is a bit smaller, But still, we can find tendency, we can find trends, we can find commonalities, and that's where data for safety will be really, really useful to all of us to practice our hobby in a more safe
and you can imagine a time where more and more people have almost like mini FDM on devices they've got in the cockpit to be able to pool that data and see, what can we learn as a community. And the fact that we'll be ready as the technology comes more and more into GA, that we'll be ready to handle that and help the community learn from all of the benefits of all these things.
I appreciate, especially John, you mentioned that we are data hungry in GA. We have a big difficulties to collect data from the national systems. They are organized in different ways, and there is a great potential for collecting data and learn from those. And I can reassure you that the colleagues who were working, like Raphael and others, who are working on data for safety, it's a trusted atmosphere, it's a trusted environment. There is a clear protocol about the access data, and the data are drawn only anonymized way. So it's a big data stuff. It's not particular attention to individual occurrences, and is to learn from big data using the tools, machine learning, and other things we have nowadays available.
Now, to show a bit the level of trust, we have agreement with some airlines, with some organizations. So we get the FDM data, the raw data that means everything, and we have access to those data which are of interest to us. So we get the full package, and out of this full package, we can extract the thousands, even more, millions and now billions of specific data, which are of interest to us for the purpose of data for safety. So our big data concept is really taking shape, and we can derive algorithms. From algorithms, we can derive behavior, attitude, law, potential trends to and this monitoring is really good. And in GA, if we can achieve something in this mindset, which is for the community, cost transparent, in fact, it does not mean any cost. It's a matter of trustworthiness between the parties.
I think that's that word trust really important thing, isn't it? I think that's why we have culture in that statement that we had on the flight path. Without the right culture where everybody trusts that this information is used for the right reasons, then it doesn't happen, does it?
And I know the GA aviators are very conscious about safety risk, and they're always talking about safety. So that's safety. That's safety part.
So that's what Raphael was very keen to introduce to the audience today. Thank you, Raphael.
So do you want to move on to some of the opportunities and threats?
Oh yeah. All the pictures won't be shocking.
So don't get shocked by the title. Threats. Any threat is an opportunity, and sometimes people could say any opportunity is also a threat. Yeah. So maybe start with the opportunity or the threat on workforce, for example.
Oh yes, that's something we start to notice, and industry leaders also, that when they are recruiting, they notice that the number of applicants is decreasing, and also the interest in aviation. We are in competition with other interesting tech industries. Nowadays, young people are probably attracted quickly by some other things, and we know all that aviation requires dedication, determination, and over longer period of time, and that's not what maybe our younger people are not always ready to do. So we face aging population of not only pilots. Let's not talk about pilots. Let's talk about aviation personnel, technicians, supporting people. And as I mentioned, there are more attractive options for young people to get involved and age, quick, very, very straightforward. So these are the challenges we are facing. And there is a growing needs from not only commercial air transport for the future. We typically were first training first officer who later become captains, but we also many of those new urban air mobility vehicles will take to the skies in coming years, and this will initially require pilots on board. This won't be anything of unmanned in the beginning, and of course this will be in competition with airlines trying to attract first officers, and this is a challenge that is facing. So we have to really consider workforce issue across the chains. I was using pilots as example, but I underline it's not only about pilots, it's about technicians. John, we have had interesting experience on this in Egersbach when we were discussing this topic, that it's very difficult to attract young people into the maintenance part of the aircraft when compared, for example, to traditional, let's say, automakers. Things that it's not easy. It's not easy for those companies to attract young talent there.
And I think there's a challenge as well that when you train somebody,
Oh yeah,
is that there are lots of places that they can then end up. It's you start in GA, but it's difficult. If you invest in training your staff, is then they end up being potentially poached by other parts of the aviation industry or other industries once they have the skills. And I think that's certainly something that I think we're all aware of and continually looking for solutions to solve.
Yeah, so that's about the workshops. But there is something about innovation, and who is the best to talk about it from all of four of us here?
It's obvious what we see, and you could argue or ask yourself, why do me as a chief engineer, head of innovation, is so much involved in GA? Because for me, GA is really the where innovation takes place, and we have plenty of examples with the new avionics, integrated avionics. Well, AI is just starting, but it is an opportunity to go even further into the assistance to the GA pilot and the community. Machine learning, industrial automation, all that is buzzword on the large transport when we talk about single pilot operation and so forth. But for GA, it is a reality. We've already the Garmin safety auto-learn system. So this is all what we see today. Not really a threat in GA. I would rather say an opportunity to optimize the way we fly, probably to reduce cost at some stage. After a small cost increase, it may help to reduce. And of course, the last two bullets in innovation are very important to introduce the last one on sustainability. Electric hybrid propulsion and other disruptive technology, that's where we, I would say, cross the board in the agency, in the commission as well, are working almost on a daily basis to really recover or improve the aviation image in the public. You all know that the picture we have on the bottom right, the problem we have with the aviation bashing, it is getting worse all over Europe, I would say all over the Western world at least, which we know. And here we have all together to work on those new propulsion means to convince the public that aviation is not so gray, is not so bad for environment. And if GA, which is already implementing electric and even hydrogen, now we see some first fuel cell flying, can show to the public that indeed that's where the change is taking place, and that's where we are taking care of the environment. It will help to preserve the airfield, which are more under tension. So innovation in GA for us is really paramount.
And actually, it's a good point. We've got so I'm not just checking my phone randomly. I have the Slido on my phone here, and we have a question from David. Is Part 21 light applicable to hydrogen-powered airplanes or limited just to conventional fossil fuel piston engine aircraft? I didn't know. I assume the technology is not quite there that Part 21 can apply yet.
Yeah, for Part 21 light, I think we have to stay in safety margins.
Stuff we know.
And it's conventional is where we are happy to relax the safety rules, because there is practice, there are standards out there that we have experience with, and we have data to confirm that these are sufficiently safe. On novel technologies, of course, that's a challenge.
However, if I may, sorry to interrupt.
There is probably.
Yes, there is an interesting point. Part 21 light indeed will be difficult to implement in industry at the beginning of hydrogen fuel cell, at least for one reason today, the weight. We are talking about CS23 aircraft. However, the good news is CS23 now is performance-based. So it is not the old prescriptive requirements. So I would say within the Part 21 environment, the implementation of CS23 of today, which is performance-based, is allowing much more easily the implementation of innovative solutions. Before, we had a prescriptive requirement. We spoke about fuel, about electric switches and so forth. So
now we talk about energy and things like that.
Now we talk about energy monitoring, etc., performance monitoring. So whether you are you have a fossil fuel, a sustainable fuel, electric fuel cell, powertrain, whatsoever, distributed lift, is feasible. And that's for us a very important development because we are not an obstacle to innovation.
And
we try not to be.
And to answer the question, probably not in declared part of the Part 21 Light, but in the Light certified, we can imagine that these kind of novelties could be processed.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So thanks for that. That was a good answer. And then maybe just to answer as well to Fishner's question, yes, we are recording this presentation and it will be put with a link to the event page for this single event, also on the community site and also on the Together for Safety YouTube channel as well. So be able to
the last we have here on the sustainable future is really for us a very important point, and it is linked to what we discussed before with the new technologies. Well, it is clear that today we have a real issue of aviation image, from large transport to small airplane, and what we see is not good. I speak as a regulator, but also as a flight instructor flying every weekend, and any moment I have some free time. And what I see is a tendency to be more and more under attack. And I'm sure the audience will agree with us. I don't know so many places where we are warmly welcome to develop activity. And this is really an issue. So the social acceptance of GA and more widely of aviation, and the misperception on our GA climate impact. Well, this we could debate for long. We are working with the various EU bodies, Clean Aviation GUs and a few others, on the characterization of the aviation impact. We have what we call the European Aviation Environmental Report, where we show that the impact is small, not negligible, but so small, and therefore, within this aviation impact, GA impact will not save the world. Even so, we have to do something. If not, we are lost. So this is a threat or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it. The threat is indeed today social acceptance is an issue. The opportunity is to show that indeed we are already working for it.
It drives innovation, drives all of these activities.
Electric airplane flying today. So we are already greener than what people would believe. We have, maybe the community, the audience knows, we have some prototype with fuel cells, aircraft flying, so hydrogen is already there. So we could say we are even more, with a bit of optimism, we are even more advanced than some other industry sectors which are perceived as much greener. It's always a matter of perception. So, threat or opportunity, but that's what we want to put on our plate to make sure that we can serve you as a community as best as we can.
Yeah, thanks. Should we move to the next bit and then we've got a few questions as well to follow up on at the end. So.
Yeah. So what we will be doing here is and here the answer is we won't be doing anything but what is in the European Plan for Aviation Safety. That document has 3 volumes. It may be very difficult or very hard to read for some readers, but if you will just go and search for general aviation, you will find a few parts clearly dedicated to general aviation. And there are certain tasks which we are using as vehicle for changes, and these changes will be designed around those priorities we have been discussing. The things you see on the screen, these are the already existing tasks. We forget about the codes. You will have it on the slide if you want it, but just focus on the left side. We do rulemaking, so we develop rules, standard specifications. We do some research where there is a need for it, for example, in areas where there are no specification, no standards, to have some kind of evidence base for rule development later on. We do a hell lot of safety promotion. Thanks to John and the team for supporting us. This is one of these activities there. But we also work with member state authorities closely on some of their pertinent safety issues. I remember that Nordic countries were very much interested to work with us on the parachuting operation, so the aircraft operation for parachuting, and some other authorities for other things. To highlight in rulemaking, there is many interesting tasks, but simpler, lighter, and better flight crew licensing for GA is the key brand there. And we are trying to simplify as much as we can, not necessarily nowadays with change of the rules, We know few issues there are being reported to us, but it's more about developing these guidelines. And here the task we have been mentioning earlier about competency-based principles within basic instrument rating training is something we want to develop, because it's very hard for the national aviation authorities without any experience to actually approve these courses when they haven't seen them before, and there is no international reference for that. So we work on that. We will be having interoperability discussions on iconspicuity later this month or the next month. On safety promotion, I think it's John can speak for hours.
Yeah, so we only have 10-15 minutes left, so maybe there's lots of things going on. Probably
this is just so. What we are, the GA Flight Path 2035 will ensure that these things are properly coordinated. So there is no different approach to them. We are applying a light approach to ensure that there is a coherent approach to GA across the board. Moving forward, how we want to do it. And we want to do it through this new project called GA Flight Path. By the way, if you would like to inspire us, we think the Flight Path 2030 plus looks good. We are committed, but if we come up with a great idea we will like, of course, we are open to change that title. But you would really need to
work in title. We're test running it with you all first.
It's really your first to be checked. This is
we follow the reaction.
And there are these 4 pillars: safety. So we will be mostly working on a culture of safety among pilots, helping safety, understanding safety. Sustainability, big thing. The things are changing around us. We see, and we will see at Aerofriedrichshafen, and this is a major thing. Every time I go out, this is becoming a prominent topic.
Yeah, for sure. There's going to be the environmental trail again this year, and the green balloons, and see all the amazing things. I'm sure there'll be even more than last year. Hydrogen and electric, all sorts of exciting things.
Let's be frank, there are many technical challenges to be overcome. And what is the best test bed for all of these? I mean, general aviation is ideally suited for this. In terms of digitalization, please understand that one in the context of technologies that were not available in the past, but are available today. We believe that these technologies can produce the data we can then use for data for safety program. We've mentioned we are data hungry, and we want to collect the identified information and use it in a transparent way with all of you, so that you can reflect in your activities on the safety risk we will be collecting through this data. So there is more to come on this one. And on diversity, I think that there is a very good thing to mention. It's not only that we need, everybody knows, yesterday was International Day for Women, so we need more women in aviation, clearly, but a diverse environment and more welcoming aviation environment. But we also need to ensure accessibility, and that's not on people on wheelchair, but that's also for young and old generation, so that aviation is still affordable activity. We do not want people to move away from aviation because it becomes unaffordable to them. Of course, we can somehow replace or substitute our activities in virtual world, flying simulators and things like that, trying to keep our skills up. But we need to make sure that the core activity remains affordable and accessible to everyone, be it young, being old.
That's a really good point. Who can argue with that as a goal?
Oh yeah, these are challenges as well. So.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, particularly in the current climate.
And who will be doing it? I mean, we have introduced ourselves already. I mean, you see bits and pieces of the older setup with the new one. I think Alan, myself, and Rafael at the center. But it's not only of us. Just to understand.
Everybody around us.
In fact, we have a picture of the whole. In fact, we put it on the event page for this event.
Yes.
I think there was 46 people across the agency who are involved in the different GA activities, and it's all a team effort. And whether it's, I know you're both flying regularly. Vendel also, who's doing our safety promotion stuff, is a pilot instructor. I look at the picture that we have on the screen, and pretty much everybody there. Yanis, I know, is flying gliders very regularly. I'm involved in ballooning. We've got Marco and other things. So everybody in the GA community, in the GA team, has involvement in some part of the GA community doing something.
But last but not least, we have our stakeholders. It's super important. We can't do everything alone. We have to do it with you. There were many occasions in the past that the tasks were conducted by our stakeholders, supporters, and this is what we are looking for. So we ask you to embrace this.
And I think that's such an important point.
Right.
You know, we do this whether it's with people in the national authorities, the associations,
Yes.
right down to the smallest flying clubs. You know, individual pilots, everybody. It couldn't happen.
Be
without
enthusiastic.
us all
Join us.
And the best example is the basic instrument rating. What we've organized with the stakeholders is great because here we really, we hope, we are confident we will spread over the full community this new approach on behavior in a kind of quality manner. That's really wonderful.
So we've got a few questions that we've got sort of 10 minutes left to run.
We should go through that.
Run through as many questions as we can. So we've got a couple on Part 21 Light there. So somebody says, Roger says, you mentioned that Part 21 Light is an achievement, but has it been published yet, including AMC?
Yeah.
Currently, the EASA website only gives Part 21 Light workshop, I think, but it's in the regulation.
Yeah, the regulation is out for some time. AMC is in development. We have been informed by colleagues in preparation for Aero that the AMC will be ready to, according to the plan this year. There are specifications being stipulated in AMC. Of course, this is an important element for the deployment of Part 21.
Yeah.
Part 21 line was not easy task. We were super happy to get support of member states. So member states supported this development by just 2 meetings, where in one it was presented and in another one it was adopted. So now it's time for the industry to support us. Gamma, I know, I invite everyone to contact Gamma and our stakeholders, IOPA. We're working on these topics and we try to make AMC available as soon as possible. Hopefully later this year, I understand.
Okay, that makes sense. We've got another one on Part 21. We've done that first one. Is Part 21 Light applicable up to level 4 of CS23?
Yeah, there is this. I mean, it's risk-based. So when you have a 2-seater, there is opportunity for declared. There is also light certified applicability, and then of course full certified. If you are above 4 seats, then you would need to go for a typical CS23. So it's like a stairway to CS23. Yeah. While there are big changes also that CS23 is objective-based and objective-driven and performance-based requirements now. So this opens a lot more room for different ways of adapting new technologies. And let's be frank, just a side note on this one. When I started to be driven by my father in a car, there were no safety belts.
I was saying, yeah.
We have safety. Would we drive without safety belts nowadays on a highway or outside the city? Definitely not. We would not drive at all because of all the warnings. So we need. But the problem with cars are changing fairly quickly. It's not happening the same with the aircraft. What we need to make sure that the aircraft could be embracing these things, these safety features, and this is where the Part 21 Light hopefully will come into play. Yeah.
Cool. So we've got some other questions. So Andreas Winkler, obviously we all know Andreas. Asked, why do we still use E6B analog calculators in pilot exams? How does this fit in the roadmap?
That's difficult to answer. You know, you nailed us. You nailed us on the most.
I love it when our stakeholders.
What a pain to hear this question from a fellow. Anyway, it's true. It's true. All things need to be reviewed. But let's be frank. We can't do it alone. We need to do this kind of things, reviews, together with stakeholders, because you have first-hand experience. But something is obsolete. It's obsolete, and we need to refocus. Yes. I have had, by coincidence, there are new driving rules have been introduced in the EU. I've heard a lot of complaints about people, about questions, about motor, the engines, the internal part, where we will have probably all automatic shifts and electric cars in the near future. So. We are not alone in this challenge, but and we cannot do it alone as well. So that's clear.
Yeah, that's a great answer to that one. So we got a question from Ilias. Sorry, I probably pronounced your name really badly there. Are there online training courses accessible to the public or students to build up general skills on regulatory requirements? And actually, it's something that Kate Brancar and I have been talking about. There's this generalaviation.eu website as a collaborative activity between many of us and many of our partners, and that's one of the places we were looking at having the kind of basic. So I want to be a pilot and I want to find out more and get kind of just a basic level of information and knowledge. So it's something we're developing there. A lot of that. There is a lot of material on the EASA rules available on the EASA website, but it's something we continually improve, both through things like the easy access rules that bring together the rules, the ANC and GM, to make them easier. But obviously, in terms of just a better understanding for GA, particularly of what does the framework look like? In terms of the rules, where do things fit together? That's a big part.
I think interesting part to mention here when you are talking about the rules. We have this online version of rules and XLS version, data-driven rules being published. And what we can see in the future that there will be specific automatic extracts for specific communities of the rules, including the updates. And that's what we expect from these developments in a medium to long run.
Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. So we've got another question on another question. A question from Venno on Part 66 licensed mechanics. So obviously at the moment on power plants we have like B11 for turbine powered airplanes, then 1.2 for pistons. Could we imagine, for example, a B1.5 for electric or 1.6 electric VTOL or hydrogen? Maybe that's where they might end up. I'm not sure. It's not something I've heard discussed particularly, but maybe that's where it all ends up in.
Yeah, it's hard to answer about the specific question like this one. I'm sure colleagues are dealing with it because we know the problem. We have had this electric first certified aeroplane in the world. We know about the challenges to make it operational in member states. So there are vehicles being already in place, rulemaking activities taking place. We don't know all the details. We would need to consult about.
And as an engineer, so I originally trained as an engineer. I always love the idea that you can compartmentalize who does what. So something becomes somebody else's job. We used to have a phrase when I trained in the Air Force was not me, chief, I'm airframes, which was always good. But I know it's something that's
you like this domain.
So anyway, it's an interesting development. I'm sure there'll be more on that later. So in terms of innovation, so this is from Volker. In terms of innovation on slide 10, integrated avionics for Annex 1 aircraft, such as historical and microlights, there are still limitations in some countries to fly in only specific airspaces and those kinds of things. So he talks about the example of Germany with national rules.
I can only confirm. I was super pleased to see that in Spain they have released those rules. Yes. There was a lot of airspace rules. We do not like this to happen, but let's be honest, we do not have too much influence over what member states' responsibility is. EASA has no influence on an Annex 1 aircraft. We don't know what will be in the future. What we believe that there should be some kind of harmonization or
Well, so this was the question that he asked: is would we foresee EASA to regulate this for all nations in Syria?
I don't think that would be what we need. What we could be in terms of resources capable of. And why to overdo things? But if we can drive the harmonizations together in a softer manner, and probably where EASA can really contribute to this is this innovative propulsion systems, innovative avionics. There we have expertise. We can drive the standards there and then plug them into the Part 21 Light.
I mean, certainly one of the things I see when I hear these conversations kind of happening is that in a sense, a lot of the discussion about drones and new space and iconspicuity is kind of driving some of this discussion and opening things up.
The big issue we have here for Annex 1 aircraft, for sure, we are completely outside of Annex 1 and we can work with member states, but member states have the full authority. And as you said, we should not overrule. So there are some Annex 1 aircraft which deserve to be treated locally. Now, where it becomes interesting, on the airspace users, how to share the airspace together, and that's where here it is part of what we said before on the newcomers. That's where we have all together to ensure that regardless it is an X1, it is EASA, or it is a civil, military, or a state aircraft, we can live in the same airspace. And that's a big challenge. In fact, that was the problem. And here we have a lot of activities into the airspace integration, into the air conspicuity is part of the answer also. And when you move U-space, you move the controlled airspace, the high-level requirements, the state aircraft requirements, and so forth. You realize that, again, the key word is we have to talk to each other. We have to use the same volume of airspace. How to share it still is extremely sensitive, let's be honest.
Yeah, if I can just complement what Alan was saying, I was sharing my own experience. I was in the middle of the developments of ADSL and icon security, and there the requirement we had to deal with applies to everyone flying, not only as a plane. And the challenge since the beginning was that we have to consider not only Annex 1 aircraft, but something which is completely out of basic regulation. So, like those who are flying the wingsuits along the mountains, I mean, these are people who may endanger ambulance helicopters. So, in our considerations, when we were saying what is affordable solution for everyone, paragliders, paramotors, these were the lowest denominator for our considerations. And this understanding helped us to convince the others, military commission, Eurocontrol people, to understand these constraints. So this is just highlighting that it's airspace integration will be a challenge. We try to come up with solutions, and hopefully those solutions will be supported by the community later.
Hopefully.
Any further questions?
Well, we've got a couple more, but actually we're kind of done on time, so I don't want to take too much. Just maybe we have one more on the Slido. In terms of icon conspicuity, are we aware of a research project on ADS-B in Aachen that was very promising? The use of ADS-R with TIS-B and FIS-B.
Yeah, we are aware of the Aachen project. It's a separate project financed in Germany, but we are having our own projects, and what we are making sure that there is an exchange of information between those two consortia. So there is a cross-fertilization or exchange of data and information on that one. Yes, we are inspired by all of this, but we want to come up with a suitable solution that are affordable to the end user, because many people see affordability, and affordability is individual part. So what is affordable for twin engine piston or single engine piston kind of Cessna or Cirrus or Sukkata may not be affordable for paramotor, paragliding, or gliding. So really see it from the user's perspective, and this perspective will be also part of the developments in the research. In terms of deliverables, we hope to have some kind of outcome end of this year, early next year, and final report mid next year on the research one.
Fantastic. Well, we covered all the questions in Slido there. They're all done. I've just dropped in the chat the link to where you can go to register for the next session. A week on Tuesday, it will be an evening session, because we appreciate, it's hard for a lot of people who are GA pilots to join sessions when they're working during the day. So the next session on international flying, hosted by Thomas Hutton from the CEA of Norway, will be from 1900 to 2030 CET on the evening of Tuesday, the 21st of March. So we look forward to seeing you there. Huge thanks to everybody here for the session.
Thanks to the audience.
So thank you for staying and listening to this discussion, and please share the link to the recording with as many people as possible. And hopefully we'll see you in person at Aero Friedrichshafen fairly soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.